Welcome back to Chocolate and Spice, Two Brown Women Talk.
Wow, they were not good, right? Those 90s were bad.
I can go on and on about the style of the 1990s, those baggy high waist jeans era.
Hey everyone, I'm Nidhi, the chirpier sister and the co host of the talk. And let's be honest, we all have had that what was I thinking style stage, right?
I am Neha, the quieter sister and co host of this talk show. Today, we're sharing stories and tips on something we all go through in our lives: style and confidence evolution. Okay, let's get right into it. What did your style look like as a kid or a teenager in India, and did you love it?
Well, I grew up getting a lot of hand me down from you, and that was just the way of life, right? But honestly, it taught me how to be creative. I would take some of your things and match it with mine, and it was just such a cool thing for me. A big part of our wardrobe came from local tailors. I mean, you probably remember. In hindsight, that was amazing. It gave us so much room to experiment and be creative. I still remember as a teenager when Ma would buy all the fabric and we would go to the tailor and get a dress made. And I had some opinions about it. And I would tell Ma, I want certain kind of a neckline or I want a bow in there. So that's where my love for customization started. And I clearly remember your obsession with getting jeans made. And we literally had custom jeans made for us. And I swear that fit better than any store bought jeans, right?
It's funny you remember. I really didn't know how to wear non-Indian clothes. Like for Indian clothes like salwar kurtis, mummy just knew what to do. But I really wanted to try wearing jeans and top and all those what we called Western wear at that time. And none of the stores. It was the 1990s, so all the jeans were big and baggy. They never fit me, and it made me look so like it was overwhelming on my frame. And so I pretty much didn't know what else to do to be fashionable, and so I gave up. So pretty much all I can say, it adds zero style sense and even lower confidence about what I could or should wear. And so, I used to pretty much look at you and think, wow, I don't know how she gets it, where she gets it from, but it's not
But for
me.
me, you were the older, and for me, it was. I used to look up to you, how cool you were because you had that, a teenage body, and I was still in that boy frame. It was like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. She's wearing all those beautiful salwar kameez that fit you so well. So yeah, grass is always greener on the other side.
I bet, I bet. And you did mention, the influence. Obviously, you're talking about my influence, but was there a cultural or family influence as well on your style as you grew up?
Yeah, I think our mom was the ultimate style icon. Her sari, salwar kameez, an incredible eye for color and fabric. She made dressing up feel like a celebration. She wasn't very confident in a lot of things, but when it came to grooming and dressing up, she brought the best that was out there. And even though she always wore Indian outfits, I don't think she ever forced that on us. But the love for color, that soaked into me very early. And somehow growing up around all those colors and vibrancy, the magendas and the mustards, the green, that started shaping how I saw myself. And by the time I was a teenager, bold colors just became a part of my personality. I think being an extrovert, I started dressing like the way I thought myself to be, like bright colors, deep blues, statement yellows. They didn't just speak to me, they introduced me even before I opened my mouth. And I was not very eloquent. So so I mean, those bright colors kind of gave me a way to express myself. What would you say? Did that influence you in any way?
A lot, in the exact, like, if our listeners by now can predict that I'm gonna have an exactly opposite reaction to yours. So I think cultural influences were big on me as well when it comes to fashion sense, but in the opposite sense, because I simply could not understand, what was going on around me. Because as an intro, and again, we're talking about extroversion, introversion a lot, and you mentioned that colors and bright colors are very associated with extroversion, which is true. I don't know if you can make like a blanket statement, say all introverted like muted colors or pale colors. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but for me, I know that that's what I was always drawn to. I mean, imagine you and mummy and pretty much most people I knew around me wearing beautiful, bright colors and a lot of different things on themselves. Not once did it feel like that's me, or I would want to be like that, or I would want to buy something similar. And that was like a big of a problem for me because I was one of those people who liked black and white, watching black and white movies, a black and white song. I think because this very big, bold Bollywood movies with lots of saturated colors was just too much for me. And it was overwhelming for me. There was a lot of print, there was a lot of fuss, a lot of jewelry, a lot of heavy style choices. And so I just didn't know what to do because it was clear to me that I wouldn't enjoy wearing it, and somehow I felt I wouldn't look good in that. I don't know if I would or wouldn't, but I really didn't enjoy wearing it. I really like things that are simple and somewhat subtle, and most of my favorite colors were muted or pale or light, or pastel, which I know you have never liked. I remember, like, you'd be like,
I'm learning to like them.
yeah, the problem here was, that because everybody around me was wearing all these bright and bold colors, they would tell me that, and from their point of view, they would think if I'm not choosing those colors, it's because I'm kind of sad, or I need to go out more and I need to just feel brighter. But for longest time, I thought that's true, because I was like, oh, something is wrong with me. I need to wear a lot of like magentas and reds, and that's when I'm going to feel exciting and not boring. It took me a really long time to understand it has nothing to do with that. That's what I like, and that's who I am. So yeah, all I'll say is, like, way back then, my favorite colors were, muted pinks and greens and creams and whites. And if you know me now, I literally have the exact same colors in my wardrobe. So don't know if I would say culturally I got influenced, but I prevented the influence because I was pretty sure of what I wanted, and that's
Yeah,
what I
and I
like.
totally agree. And as a young girl, I saw you rebelling against it. I remember Ma and Papa would always force certain colors on you. And you were like, I don't like it. And Ma would be so confused, like, why don't you like it? It's a beautiful red color. And you were like, I just don't like it. I don't think you knew at that time how to express that that was not something you enjoyed or you felt comfortable in. But yeah, I mean, unlike me, where I went towards, like, gravitated towards those bright colors, you understood that is not my thing and you kind of moved away. But that is so interesting. And how do you think your style evolved during college times or when you moved out of home?
Oh well, my college times were particularly boring. I was in computer engineering, and there was so much studying going on, and I was like one of those super nerdy people, like always studying, and so style wasn't top of my mind at all. I think all the 4 years of my undergrad, I spent wearing the few salwar kurtis that mummy got for me. I never even asked for more, and it was a complete dud style wise. I would say I finally found my voice when I started my first job, like right after my undergrad. When I started working, I moved to Mumbai, and that's when, I don't know, maybe it's because I started earning my own, and I didn't feel like, oh, I'm obligated to ask mommy to buy me things that only I like and she doesn't. So anyway, I started spending more money on my own clothes and my own choices. And mall was, I think, yeah, mall had just about started in Mumbai then. And so I would go to these stores and I would start experimenting and buying jeans and the tops. And you know what, I'll say, like, I'm so glad there were no phone cameras then, and so I have like only a few photographs of that time or that era, because whatever I see, I hate it. It's the horrible tops, like really ill fitting, weird kind of tops. But what I really love about that time is that I finally learned to experiment, and I finally learned to let go of whatever ideas I had about how I should be. And I started trying to figure out what I actually want to be. Thinking about you, and I wasn't around when you were in college, but looking at the photographs, you were wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, I also did computer science engineering, but unlike you, I had very little interest in studies. I wasn't let's put it this way, I wasn't very studious. I had this YOLO mindset, and I was just living my best life doing what I liked. And I was lean, my metabolism was magical, and I could basically wear anything. I was in Mumbai and I lived in black because that was like the rock music era, like tank top, open bottom shirts. I mean, you thankfully were not there. You would not have agreed with the outfits I wore during that time. And I didn't care about fabric or how long it would last. It was a lot of sales there. It was always quantity over quality. Never heard of the word sustainability in my life. but I was also 20. Again, that's not an excuse,
Yeah.
but that was not a thing. It was like, oh, the more quantities I have more variety to wear. So that was my undergrad days. And then when I started doing my master's, the business degree, that's when I moved to a different country, a different city, and a different mindset. That is where, in my mid 20s, I was suddenly I had to agree to a dress code, because we were expected to be very polished in the business degree, and I had to just adapt. It was pencil skirts, formal dresses, proper blouses. I basically lived in business attire for 2 years. It wasn't much of a personal style. It was literally how we were trained in those 2 years, how to present ourselves, groomed head to toe. I didn't hate it, but I knew that it wasn't exactly me. It was more of a uniform for me. So just did
Oh,
that.
yeah. I remember like it was a 180 degree. I'm like, the Nidhi I knew from 10 years back and the Nidhi I now know in business school. Like, how? I was very amazed. I was very impressed by your amazing pivot. One thing that just occurred to me is maybe for our audiences, especially those who are listening, because this is a style show, we could at least talk about what we are wearing because we've been
Sure.
talking about what we like to wear. Why don't you go first?
All right. I am wearing a halter top that is from a brand called Cuts. And I am wearing jalebi earrings, which are like
Ooh,
really cool. It's like
so cool.
ethnic earrings, but I love that it goes well with my black halter top. And I'm wearing blue denims, high waist blue denims, because they are just so comfortable. Yeah.
Where did you
What
get
about
your jalebi earrings from?
it's from a small business. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore, so I cannot tag them or name them. But I got it. It was one of the very small Indian businesses that I was supporting a couple of years back.
And you have a cuff on your arm
Oh
as
yeah. So, but this was a gift from you. Tell
oh,
me
that's true.
where you.
Yes.
Yeah, it was from Anthrop.
Anthropology, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, but this
Super
gorgeous,
cool.
right?
Yeah, like black and gold, so you're back in your college era. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, for me, I'm wearing today, I'm kind of experimenting. I usually don't wear off shoulder, like one shoulder tops. I'm wearing a silk one shoulder ruffle top from Josie, a brand called Josie. I actually thrifted this from ThreadUp. And I was like, why not? And it is a white top, a white or creamish top, the color that I usually prefer. And I just paired that with a very beautiful locket, a very beautiful traditional locket that was a gift from my aunt. And I just have it around my neck like a choker, and that's it. And today I went a little bold and I put some red lipstick,
All
which
for the style episode, but you look great. I actually you should wear more of off shoulders. I think it really looks good.
oh, thank you. I will try. Cool. So that was fun. Now back to our usual broadcast. Were there any moments you felt pressure to dress in a certain way?
I don't think so. At least I don't recall falling into any of the pressure. I mean, when I was in college, I did want to look a certain way, and that's why I gravitated towards black, because that was a rock music era, and that was my thing. And Ma absolutely hated my all black wardrobe, and she constantly keep telling me, don't you have any other colors?" I'm pretty sure she complained about me to you too, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, yes, a lot. I was in the US at that time and when you were in college and she would whenever she'd call me and I'd be like, "How is Niti doing?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, I just visited her and her black wardrobe." I sometimes feel like I should like hide some from her and she wouldn't even know because she has so many of them. It's like, "Oh my gosh." But you know what? I really love that. You knew what you wanted and you kept doing and you were bold enough to do it in spite of, I'm sure, a lot of pressure to not do that. And I clearly remember when I returned, when I visited back India from the US and I saw you in person for the first time, after almost 2 years, I truly could not believe my eyes because to me it felt like I left a kid sister and I've got this grown woman. And you looked so amazing. You looked so cool. I still remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, like I remember you had highlights in your hair, right? I think those were the times when people had started highlighting their hair. So you put highlights in your hair and you were wearing this fitted jeans and fitted top and some sort of a jacket and you looked so cool. I was like, wow, how stylish are you? And living in the small town in India that we did, where style was not necessarily either encouraged or celebrated, at least the kind that we were going for. to for you to be able to find your own and be bold enough to live your own style, that was amazing. It always was very inspiring for me.
Since you mentioned highlight, I have to tell you this funny story. One fine day, I came home for summer vacations from college, and I told Ma that I wanted to get a tattoo. You know,
Oh,
I mean, you probably will not be able to connect to me, connect with what I'm saying because we both are very different. I had this whole design picked up. I'm pretty sure it was a skull, and it was apparently to me it was very meaningful, artisty, and even very edgy, and I was so ready for it. Ma was horrified. I mean, when I looked at her face, I felt like she thinks I'm going to burn the house down or something. And she told me, I'm going to give you anything you want if you don't get a tattoo. I knew that I shouldn't push my luck. So I paused for a second and I was like, I want to get highlights. And she immediately softened and she was relaxed. And she's like, sure, let's go get it done. And that's how I ended up with my first highlight. A total compromise that made her happy. And it still helped me get a little bit of my edgy self that I wanted. But I think you mentioned it. Isn't it funny that because at that time getting highlight in a small town just felt so rebellious, right? So edgy. And mommy was so relieved that at that time that I didn't get a tattoo because it would have been a social trauma for her too, that she would have let me dye my hair blue if I asked. So that's how I
right.
negotiated with her.
I know. And the reason I was surprised because first I didn't know the story and I was imagining like, getting a tattoo is fine like, but I was imagining what 21, 22, 23 years back in a small town in India trying to get a tattoo. Like I cannot imagine the horror at
I
mommy's.
mean, and I'm glad I didn't do it because I'm not into tattoo anymore
Yeah.
because that permanent thing on my body, I don't think I would have liked it. But it's like how we negotiated and had this strategic communication.
And look
Really.
at how bold you were because after seeing your highlight, and remember, I was already married, I already had a kid by then, right? And I told mommy, Mommy, should I also get my hair colored and highlighted? And you know what mommy's response was? She was like, you are married. Getting highlight, like nobody else who's married gets highlight. Are you sure you want highlight? And actually, it's good that, I did not get highlight because it's not like I have great hair and it probably would have destroyed my hair. So, but like that's the difference. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't, and I never got.
I'm glad you didn't because it totally messed up my hair because it makes
Mm.
the hair dry and I didn't in college nobody takes very good care of. At least growing up there I didn't have expensive shampoos or a conditioner and all of that. But yeah, I mean, you wanted something and it I would have liked you to experiment because that's how you learn. Like there are so many moments in my life and your style moments too when I'm like, what was I thinking? Like when I sometimes look at my pictures and I'm like, what was I thinking? And I still remember your printed pants that you bought from Mumbai when you were earning. I was crazy about those pants. I stole it from you at one point because I just thought they were so cool. And when I look at those pictures, we'll maybe post it on our website. What were we thinking? What was that?
So bad, so bad. Bell bottoms, all printed. Oh my gosh.
But
Um,
what about you? Did you ever feel any pressure to dress a certain way after marriage?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely did. So for reference, again, for those who are listening, I was married when I was 24, and which is of course pretty young. And by that time, I hadn't really discovered what I looked good in. But there's one thing I was very sure about, and once I'm sure about some things, it's hard to change my mind. Like I like to be comfortable, and I wanted to have freedom of choice. Very, very soon after my marriage, like within a few weeks after my marriage, I traveled to the US, and that's where my husband and I were living. So we moved to US, and so I had that freedom of choice that I always wanted. Right, I didn't have to follow what I'd seen all married Indian women had to follow right after wedding. You have to wear bindi, you have to wear, especially in North, and I'm not sure like if it's prevalent everywhere, but from the women that I had seen around me would wear bindi and sindoor and wear bangles and I think other stuff on their feet. I'm forgetting the name of those things, like you'd wear ring kind of things.
Those
Yeah, yeah,
Taurus.
yeah. Toe rings, exactly. Exactly. And to me, it was not necessarily an act of rebellion to not wear it. It's just that I was never comfortable in that. I was never the girl who wore bindi even for fun because I just never enjoyed it. Again, more power to those who love wearing that. I'm in no way saying that's not a great look. It's just that it didn't work for me. So, of course, as the moment I landed in the US, completely stopped wearing any of those suits and all of that. And I started looking for avenues where I could buy things that were more sort of Western at that time. And so I've discovered Gap and that's when I discovered Gap and H&M. And fortunately, at that time, Gap, I remember, used to have those incredibly basic, really well fitting t-shirts and jean skirts and jeans. Like my uniform at that time, and I had my kid very early as well, was like light white pastel shirts and simple jeans and skirt, and that became my go-to. So yeah, I did feel pressured to dress a certain way after marriage, but I did not give in to the pressure. I wore whatever I wanted to wear.
It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And when did your clothes start reflecting you?
I feel like every phase has its own style and beauty. I have nothing against all the mistakes I've made. But if I had to pick like one turning point, I would say during pregnancy and motherhood. That's when my body was shifting constantly, and so was my identity. I had to build my wardrobe not just for my changing body shape, but also for my changing self. Before that, I was still experimenting, playing dress up, and leaning towards trends and uh, thinking about what would look good, people's perception. But once I became a mom, something in me shifted. I had like zero time, zero energy, zero patience for anything or anyone that didn't serve me. I understood very, very deeply why people are so obsessed with comfort. I think you mentioned that it was all about comfort, and I don't mean sweatpants all day. I mean freedom of movement, like breathable fabric kind of freedom. So high base jeans became a lifesaver, flowing dresses and natural fabric, cotton, linen. And now that I'm in my peri-menopausal stage, I totally get why our moms used to be loyal to those cotton kurtas and like those airy dupattas. It was not just, they were not just dressing for heat, it was, they were dressing for their peace and peace of mind.
Yeah.
So this phase, I do care less about looking put together. It's more about feeling like myself, like feeling honest. I dress for comfort, realness, softness. So that's my thing currently. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, loved your interesting journey. Over the years, I feel all of us evolve and our desire to dress up in a certain way changes. So for me, I would say how I dress up right now reflects me the most now because I'm not constrained by any outside influences. So it's really me. I will say, like in my 30s, like late 20s, 30s, I had a full time job, like I had a career and a little kid. And I kind of discovered a sort of a very defined and structured outfit that worked for me everywhere. And the outfit was I'd have a flowy top, I'd have some sort of formal pants or jeans, and I'd have blazers. And this worked really well for me because it was my go to for office and it was my go-to for going out or running with any errands with my son, and it would just work everywhere. When I hit 40, I think, you know something clicked. Like it's like, again, I've talked about how hitting 40 kind of affected me, and I decided I wanted to become more visible. I don't know why. I was like, I'm not visible enough. Suddenly I thought, I was like, let's buy bold colors, let's buy big prints.
That's
And there
called
was this.
midlife crisis, by the way.
Yes, I think
Just
that's how you define it. And so there was fortunately just a small period in my life when I ended up buying a lot of bold colors and bright stuff. I simply didn't enjoy wearing it. Every time I'd see a photograph of myself in that, I'd cringe. And so within a year, I realized it was a mistake. Let's go back to my original style. And whether I'm visible or invisible, I enjoy it. And that's what matters. So right now, I prefer my clothes to be really streamlined and calming, but I do like a bit of unexpectedness. So, like, I'm wearing a white top right now, but I have this really, really beautiful locket that I'm wearing with it. So usually, like, if I'm wearing neutrals, I'll have like a bright purse or some standout accessory. So all I'll say is that my style has almost never been about trends. I realized, like, all the way back to my teens, I was pretty much wearing similar color or style, and I'm still wearing that. And that's who I am, and that's what I love. Do you have any tips for anyone out there with your body type or style that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think over the years, I have figured out what kind of flatters my shape or what I think flatters my shape. So, and what to avoid. And I am 5'4". I have broad shoulders. I'm not petite. I usually wear medium, sometimes small, but medium is my go to. One thing I've learned is that fit matters more than any size. I don't chase any number on tags anymore. I just care about how something makes me feel. For example, the brand Reformation, not calling anybody out, but that is one brand where I wear the size large or 8. At first, that number did bother me, and I was like, what? I'm wearing a large? But now who cares? Why should a number steal my peace of mind, Especially when these brands can't get their sizing consistent across the board. That shouldn't matter to me, right? So for broader shoulders, the way I stay away from very puffy sleeves or boxy neckline. They make me look wider up here. So I like to wear some like styles like these that I'm wearing, scoop neck or wrap styles. They are my best friends. I also love pieces that cinch at the waist. And you introduced me to this whole concept of belt. And you have gifted me so many belted dresses and structured wrap top. And I just feel they add a little bit more definition and make me feel I have more shape, even on bloated days. And totally random but real, that a good underwear and a well fitted bra makes so much difference. I have invested, and I recommend everybody to invest in these basics. Like anything you wear on top just looks so much better. But my biggest tip is the confidence, you all. That's the real accessory that I think puts everything together so well. What about you? What are your tips for your body size?
Yeah, I love everything that you said, particularly about sizes. I mean, especially as women, we tend to get hung up on, oh, we're this size, oh my gosh, we're that size. It really doesn't matter. There are different reasons why certain different sizes fit. And I did work really hard for myself to try and understand what works for my body. But again, like what I'm going to state doesn't necessarily going to even work for similar body type who might have a different style choice. So for me, the goal of dressing has always been to look my best self. So again, for reference, I'm actually very petite, which means I'm under 5 feet 2 inches. Typically wear sizes that are extra small or extra small, depending upon different brands. So for anyone who's petite like me, my first suggestion would be to try and buy from the petite section. That was the biggest eye opener for me when I discovered that brands have petite section, and a lot of brands have that now. The reason that works is because that works better for your shoulder, your arms, your leg sizes. And at least for me, I don't have to alter clothes anymore, and they more or less fit me correctly, so that's great. Another interesting thing about my body is that after my son's birth, I had a little bit of pooch on my tummy. And I'm when you look at me, you'd be like, yeah, she's very thin, but I actually have a pooch on my tummy. Nothing will take it away. It is for life.
That's invisible pooch, by the way. Please, people who are who have not seen her pooch, I'm telling you, I have. It's
There is a pooch. So I usually have to figure out how to avoid emphasizing that part of my tummy. So I used to in the past love low waist jeans because they're comfortable and they used to look good on me, but they're out. So I typically wear, mid waist, mid rise pants or high waist pants, um, and they gently like flow down. That's how it typically works. The materials are usually linen or silk or cotton because they're more flowy and they don't kind of cling. So it might work for you as well if you have that body type. And also the other thing is I have curvier hips than top. So I tend to use blazers and button down shirts because that gives me more structure and heft to my upper body and therefore balances out the proportion. And the final tip I have is I discovered jumpsuit completely by accident several years back. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I wore it. And then I remember folks were like, oh, this is so cool. And I think over time I bought so many jumpsuits. And I realized the reason it might look cool, especially for somebody like me, is because it's a singular color top to bottom. So it can be very streamlined and it can be very easy on your eyes to see something like that. Again, for petite folks, the only other thing I'll say is to try and avoid something too fussy, because if there's too much frill or too much material, a petite frame can get overwhelmed, and you want yourself to shine and not your clothes to overwhelm or overshine you. So I would say, and I also like wearing dresses, and I typically like to wear flowy, frame following rather than clingy dresses, because I don't know, that works better for the kind of curves I have. Wear what makes you feel good, because ultimately, if you're feeling good, you're able to carry your outfit well. And if you're able to carry your outfit well, you're going to look good no matter what, because it is your confidence and your inner glow that really matters. And the clothes shouldn't wear you, you're wearing the clothes. So really, that's how it should come across.
Yeah,
um
and
yeah.
shopping has always been our thing, right? That's something we love to do together, even if it's just window shopping. Like we try on clothes, we hype each other up, we take selfies. And there was a phase before Vikram was born. Let's just say it was a confusing phase in my life where I bought unflattering clothes, and there was not a single moment when you made me feel bad. And I appreciate it. Like now, when I look back at those pictures, I cringe. What was I thinking? But I appreciate that you gave me the space to grow and figure out, because we went shopping together and you saw me on those horrible outfits. I was so confident that I could pull it off. And I was like, I'm going to buy it. And there were times when Giaji, my brother in law, your husband, would say, "Oh, don't worry, we will never lose her in that bright outfit." She's going to be like so out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you helped me figure it out. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
but those worked, and you made them work in your own way. I mean, your confidence was always your best accessory, that is for real in your case. And so you always owned what you wore. And whether I was like, oh my God, this is one pattern too big, but when you wore it, it worked.
it. And I felt so good about myself. That's why I never saw it. Now, obviously, my style has evolved or changed. And now I look back, I feel bad. But at that moment, it made me feel so beautiful. So,
It's
it's a
amazing.
part of
Yeah, yeah,
the growing up.
yeah. So on that note, let's do some fun lightning round, because this is supposed to be a fun topic. So question number one: name one or two celebrities who are your style icons.
Mindy Kaling, I absolutely love her. She is not afraid to try bold colors, statement prints. Her style is so vibrant, confident, joyful, and she just makes fashion feel like fun. And I love that about her. Padma Lakshmi, I think I aspire to be like her, but she's 6 feet. None of the things she wears will ever look good on me. But I love that she embraces her curves, her culture, her age, all of it with so much grace. And that's the vibe that I want in my life, like ease, elegance, spice. That's what I aspire to be. What about you?
They're both so good, aren't they? I love them both. I really love both of those women. Um, for me, I don't have any specific celebrity in mind, but what I'll say is like the idea of what Audrey Hepburn represented, that kindness, happiness, and that elegance, that's what I truly love and aspire to. And she could elevate simple outfits with something unexpected, like she'd have a pair of sunglasses or a scarf or a few pearl, strands or a belt. And the other thing was like, I think in all the photographs that I've seen her in, she's always extremely well dressed, but it never feels like she's very loud or overtly fashionable. And if you've been to my house, you've seen I got photos of Audrey Hepburn in different places, because I really like, I love the sort of the glow and the joy she sort of exudes. And currently, like in contemporary wise, I like the style of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. And the primary reason is I feel like it always feels like she's very much at ease with what she's wearing, and her clothes never overshadow her, even though she's always in the news. She seems to have mostly neutral palettes, but she also creates a lot of variety with that minimalistic palette that she had, and I like her creativity there. And I'll also venture a bit into Bollywood, and I really love the simplicity of the actresses from the black and white era of the 1950s. So,
Wow, I would have never said any of those people. Like we are
yeah.
we are so opposite. So,
For me, I'm like, yeah, everybody must love them all. But
I mean, they don't represent my style. They are gorgeous in their own way, but I would have never picked them.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Every woman has their own style, and we all
Yeah.
love each of them for their own. All right, second question: is there a piece of clothing you refuse to give up?
Yes, I don't know if you remember this dress. I'll show you a picture later. It's a full length floral black dress that we got together 10 years back from Forever
Mm.
21 when Ma was visiting. I have worn it so many times that my husband, who never notices anything, nothing he notices, even he says, Nidhi, it's time. I have seen this dress so many times that it's time to donate it now. But I don't care. It's timeless and it brings me so much joy. So I don't think I'm ever getting rid of it. What
Yeah,
about you?
and it fits you and looks good on
I
you. Why
know
shouldn't you?
it's one of those flowy, comfortable dresses.
Wow, yeah, for me, oh my gosh, so many. You know me, right? I have a hard time throwing stuff. So I have shirts, t-shirts all the way back from 15 years back, and like I did colors of Benetton and some really old Gap t-shirts that I still wear, and they fit, and their quality is good. They're still around, so I still wear them. And I remember this one thing. So 21 years old, like right after my marriage, when I moved to Wisconsin, I bought, it was so cold. It was so cold. So anyway, I bought this turtleneck sweater. I wore it when my son was born. I wore it when I would carry him around, and I still have it. It still works. It's still comfy and warm, and it has sentimental value, and I still wear it. And yeah, so that's one thing I will keep for as long as I can until that completely starts falling apart, I
But
think.
that's a good quality. I remember what you're talking about. I mean, it looks perfectly fine. So why? Why not?
Amazing.
So,
Amazing. Is there a piece of clothing you'll never wear again?
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's the sheer pantyhose.
Mm.
Absolutely not. Those are things you wear under skirt, like especially if you have shorter skirt. You wear those. They are itchy. They are see-through, and I live in constant fear of getting a run. They never stay in place. I don't know why I ever wore it or bought so many of them. They were not worth the mental trauma. I'll let them stay in 20s where they belong. So never bringing them back. What about
I
you?
honestly, I that was the one thing. I don't know. I used to ask you, and I'm like, why are you bothering with that? You would, when even when you were in California, like,
I don't
why are
know.
you? Why would you wear pantyhose in California?
Apparently trendy. Well, I don't know who brought that trend, but it's certainly not comfortable.
Yeah, for me, it's skinny jeans. Oh my gosh, I have no idea why I ever even started that thingy. Like it was a trend a few years back. I bought a few skinny jeans, so uncomfortable. So, and I don't even think I used to look good in that, but I bought them, and I'm like, I seriously hope it never comes back. And the other thing is high heels. Not that I ever wore high heels. My highest heel would be 1.5 inch, and I would think, my gosh, I such.
Those are not gonna heights.
I know, I know.
But still.
For a person this short, you'd think I'd wear 5 inch, but I just cannot walk in heels comfortably. And so I typically would wear like ballet flats, or at most I'd have those like platform kind of like a little clog kind of heels. And that's what I'm comfortable in. So I'm like, hopefully I never have to wear that.
Yes, I think this was so much fun to record, right? And I hope this episode was as much fun for you to hear as it was for us to record. Styling is all about confidence and knowing you are okay no matter what. Do what pleases you, and if this episode gave you something to think about or just made you feel seen, we would love for you to support our podcast. You can find Chocolate and Spice, Two Brown Women Talk, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Exactly. And check out our website at chocolateandspicetalk.com for blog posts, behind the scenes extras, and all the links we promised today. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more people find us and join the conversation. Also, tell us what you want to hear next. We want to feature your topic and your stories. So join this community of real stories. Thank you for listening.
Bye.